He left and I stayed.
Where's your home?
That's funny. I never had.
Diana Dors, born Diana Mary Fluck on the 23rd of October 1931, was an English actress, TV personality and singer. She was born in Swindon at the Haven Nursing Home, Kent Road, Swindon, and died aged 52 on the 4th of May 1984 in Windsor. She married 3 times, bearing 3 children. Hi, I'm John, and welcome to John's Box, my YouTube channel, and welcome to the first part in a series, first part proper in a series of 20 Swindonians dead or alive. And in today's, as you just found out in the introduction, it's all about our beloved Diana Dors. Well, back in August, I actually selected Diana Dors, promising that there would be a video about her in September, but for various reasons, too much work, etc, etc, I've only just got round to finishing that one, and the next video on this channel will be about the next famous Swindonian, which will be drawing from a hat at the end of this video. Yes, as I've just mentioned, Diana Dors is the most famous Swindonian ever, arguably, of course. She's the English equivalent, or rather she was the English equivalent of Marilyn Monroe, film legend, and not only. She was everything that the women ad-libbers hated, the male slap and tickle, and being treated sometimes as a sex object among other, but she loved that. She sort of enjoyed that sort of being that kind of blondie, playing the blonde, and of course later in her career playing the main role in films. Above all, she was one of us, one of you. I don't live in Swindon anymore. She was a Swindonian, born in Swindon. Like many in show business, she died too early, aged 52. So this video will focus on her early life in Swindon, that Swindon connection, which is very important, and her death, her early career, and then her death, because there is so much more to say about Diana Dors, the actress. It's just too much information to put in one video, so I hope you'll understand that. Educated at a small private school called Selwood House in Bath Road, Swindon, from which she was eventually expelled. Diana would repeatedly talk and otherwise misbehave during French lessons, being given by an elderly Czech Jewish refugee who admonished her, "Pay attention. After the war, you will be able to go on holiday to France and speak with the locals." She replied, "Who wants to go to silly old France anyway?" At which point he threw a stick of chalk at her. She caught the chalk and threw it back at him, hitting him, for which he was expelled. During the war, Diana dated a boy called Desmond Morris from the boys' high school, also on Bath Road. Morris, who was from one of the town's wealthier, more prominent families, used to take her aboard his rowboat on the lake in his family's garden. The garden and lake now comprise Queen's Park. In the late 1960s, Morris, the zoologist, became famous as the author of The Naked Ape and presenter of a TV series made of the book. Dors came to public notice as a blonde bombshell, much in the style of Americans Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield, and Mamie Van Doren. Dors was promoted by her first husband, Dennis Hamilton, mostly in sex film comedies and risque modeling. After it was revealed that Hamilton had been defrauding her, she continued to play up to her established image, and she made tabloid headlines with the parties reportedly held at her house. Later, she showed talent as a performer on TV, in recordings and in cabaret, and gained new public popularity as a regular chat show guest. She also gave well-regarded film performances at different points in her career. Having excelled in her elocution studies after lying about her age, at 14 she was offered a place to study at London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, LAMDA, becoming the college's youngest student, starting in January 1946. She lodged at the Earl's Court YWCA and supplemented her £2 per week allowance, most of which was spent on her lodgings, by posing for the London Camera Club for £1 That's £1 5p in new money, and that was per She acted in public theatre pieces for Lambda Productions. During the signing of contracts, in agreement with her father, she changed her contractual surname to Dors, the maiden name of her maternal grandmother. This was at the suggestion of her mother Mary. Fluck was not an appropriate stage name, even according to Dors herself. Indeed, the rest is history. She played the leading role in 12 films, including The Pied Piper in 1972. She also performed in Carry On, recorded 4 studio albums, including Dr. Dolittle in 1968 and 6 singles, and the last as late as 1981 with Gary Dors. So Diana Dors, international celebrity, and I think, as I mentioned, that's the Diana Dors of Swindon. As fun facts are in vogue, if they are still, because I'm always behind the fashion, as you can see by my dress, my attire, here are some fun facts for you. Her mother Mary was married to Albert Edward Sidney Fluck, a railway clerk, but Mary had been having an affair with another man, and when she announced she was pregnant with Diana, she admitted she had no idea if the other man or her husband was the father, and that's going back to the 1920s, would you believe? So if you thought that sort of thing was a recent phenomenon, well, absolutely not. It's been happening since the dawn of man. In 1961, she narrowly escaped death at a Guy Fawkes night party in Wraysbury, where, I'm reading this by the way, where fireworks were accidentally ignited indoors. Wonderful, wonderful. The house was destroyed, 3 people died in the fire, and another one had a fatal heart attack. And Dors was slightly injured while escaping through a window. So there's another. Well, I don't think that's fun, but as a factoid. Dors divorced Dawson, that was her first husband, in 1966, and returned to the UK in order to find work, leaving behind her 2 sons. She resumed cabaret work with her pianist and musical director Denny Termer, and subsequently was served with a writ of bankruptcy. This happens to people in show business. As her popularity had fallen, this time she was touring working men's clubs and smaller venues when her fortune dwindled. In 1968, she reported that she owed £53,000. That's a lot of money, of which £48,000 was to the Inland Revenue, and had assets of a little over £200. Well, from hero to zero. She declared bankruptcy in October 1968. I think that's more or less the time of the Carry On camping, or was that later? In 1968, she said, it really is terrifying how gullible and naive I was, and still am. I fell for hard luck stories the way boys fall for girls. To make things worse, I surrounded myself with gangsters, con men, and phonies. Doesn't finish, you know. Dors claimed to have hidden away more than £2 million in banks across Europe. In 1982, she gave her son Mark Dawson a sheet of paper on which she told him there was a code that would reveal the whereabouts of the money. His stepfather Alan Lake supposedly knew the key that would crack the code, but he died by suicide soon after her death, and Dawson was left with an apparently unsolvable puzzle. It gets even more interesting here. He sought out computer specialist Inference, who recognized the encryption as Vigenère, French, cipher. Inference then used their own cryptanalyst software to suggest a 10-lettered decryption key, the Mary Fluck, together, short for Diana Mary Fluck, Dors' real name. With the aid of a bank statement found among Alan Lake's papers, Inference was then able to decode the existing material to reveal a list of surnames and towns only, suggesting that there must be a second page that would reveal first names and bank details to complete the message. As this has never come to light, no money has ever been traced. In 2003, UK Channel 4 made a television programme about the mystery. There you have it. So that money may be floating around somewhere. If you're into computers, then maybe you could have a go at cracking the code. A larger-than-life bronze statue of Dors by the artist John Clinch was erected outside the cinema at Shoreditch in West Swindon in 1991. It depicts an exaggerated version of her wearing an evening gown. Swindon Heritage unveiled a blue plaque to Dors in 2017 on the boundary of numbers 61 and 62 Kent Road in the Old Town area of Swindon. The plaque was unveiled by her son Jason Dors Lake and her granddaughter Ruby Lake. Dors' 1959 pink Cadillac, which was a gift to her from Shepperton Studios, was parked outside during the unveiling. The collection of Swindon Museum Art Gallery includes a bronze bust of Dors by the artist Enid Mitchell. It was originally unveiled at the Wyvern Theatre in the town in 1988, where it was displayed in the foyer until 2013, when it was moved to Swindon Central Library. It remained on display there until it was rehoused in the Museum and Art Gallery in 2015. I'd now like to say something about the final years of her career. Again, I'm going to read these notes. Still making headlines in the news of the world and other print media in the late 1970s, thanks to her adult parties in later years, Dors' status began to revive. In 1979, while touring in Australia, she said, "I used to think it was a lot of hooey, that life begins at 40, but I know what I can put up with. I've mellowed." Really? I'm a homey person, although I don't expect people to believe it. Well, actually, yeah, she did mellow, and I'll come to that in a moment. Although her film work consisted mainly of sex comedies, her popularity climbed thanks to her television work, where her wit, intelligence, and catchy one-liners developed as a cabaret performer won over viewers. She became a regular on Joker's Wild, Blankety Blank, and Celebrity Squares, and was a regular guest on BBC Radio 2's The Law Game. She was also on Desert Island Disc, by the way. She also had a recurring role in The Two Ronnies in 1980. Having gone through her first round of cancer treatment by the early 1980s, Dors' hourglass figure had become plumper, and she addressed the issue through co-writing a diet book and creating a diet and exercise video cassette in those days. This resulted in her working for TVAM ITV's breakfast station in the summer of 1983 in a regular slot focusing on diet and nutrition, which later developed into an agony aunt section. Yeah, actually, wonderful agony aunt. Okay, just a little bit more. As the cancer treatment took its toll again, however, her appearances became less frequent. She sued the show for withholding her fan mail. Well, not nice of the show to do that. Her last public appearance was in Cabaret at Harpoon Louis Earl's Court, West London, on the 15th of April 1984. That's about a month before her death, where she looked considerably frail but stood throughout the whole set. Her final posthumous film appearance was in steaming 1985, and now we'll go on to view about her death. Towards the end of her life, Dors had meningitis and twice underwent surgery to remove cancerous tumours. She collapsed at her home near Windsor with acute stomach pains and died on the 4th of May 1984, aged 52, at the BMI Princess Margaret Hospital in Windsor, from a recurrence of ovarian cancer, first diagnosed 2 years before. Her funeral service was held at the Sacred Heart Church in Sunningdale on the 11th of May 1984. She had converted... So there you have it, our beloved Diana. So now what we're going to do, if you know more, if you had a personal experience meeting with Diana, you remember that, so please share your comments on this channel. So I'm going to choose the next celebrity, which we'll be doing after the new year, and that's going to be, make sure I've got all of them here. So let's see who's going to be in the next edition. Right, chosen person, and it is David Murray John, who's of course the man behind the tower, tallest construction in Swindon. So that will be, he's from the area of social politics. He was Swindon's town clerk, not that well known, but certainly a local figure. Diana Dors was beyond Swindon for many years, but David Murray John was actually engaged in Swindon practically all his life. So that'll be coming up shortly. In the meantime, I'd like to say to you all the very best for sticking with me to the end of this video, for being with my channel all year. It has grown, and I hope it grows in the following year. It leaves me to wish you a happy new year. Bye now. See you soon.